Satya Dharma Reflection on April 17, 2022. Forming up, the brightening. Everything is brightening, otherwise there is no power to give. You have to assume up the power so that there will be the power to penetrate through, awaken out, brighten out, in a way that is not relevant to the awakening itself or the brightening itself. With this, it will penetrate through without traces, with the purification for the internal and the external simultaneously. By just stillness, indifference, it will be blocked within the body and mind, within senses and sense perception. This is not breaking through the senses and sense perceptions at all. Go on in a way that is uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself. With this, it will discard the unwinding itself. It will discard the discard itself. Brighten out, awaken out, in the way that is not relevant, even to the uninvolved itself. To be still and indifferent is will be blocked with just the body and the mind, with just form and formlessness, with just being drowsy or not, more or less of the drowsiness, with just that. If the disregard is still having significance and meanings and involvement within it, it's not yet truly disregarding. The disregard is not even the disregard itself. It's not even itself. Uninvolved is not even the uninvolved itself. It's not about anything within the uninvolved itself. With this, it will be without traces, passing through body and mind, inside and outside. Otherwise, it's be just circling in the way there is narrowness or expansiveness, still circling. The power of the blessing has to be assumed up continuously for both the awakening and the brightening. The more of the uninvolved, even within the uninvolved itself, it will be purification of the emptiness continuously, without traces. It will turn into purification of the emptiness that is automatic. The anupab, or the mighty force of the unwinding and releasing to help samsara, to make oneself in stillness or indifference, to be drowned and sinking and maintaining anything is like being stuck with just fixated and clinging to states of mind, being realm of existence internally. Something within stillness, in the indifference, maintaining and sinking. This is the karmic difficulties within the mind, within Dharma. This is the realm that doesn't discard itself. The mind doesn't discard itself. The state of mind doesn't discard itself, still having significance and meanings within it. This is the obsession to preserve realms of existence on and on. Assume up Dharma to be deluded and fixated to Dharma. Is that so? Being deluded to the form up and then having the delusion with it. It's not about anything within the disregarding itself. The discard or unwinding, discard itself, doesn't grasp itself. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, absolutely. It's not about anything within the uninvolved itself, absolutely. With this, it will be spontaneous in blessing. The blossoming discards itself automatically. This is not being obsessed to open up, being lingering within states of mind, lingering within state of mind on and on obsessively. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself, uninvolved even within the uninvolvement itself. Just like it's not about anything within the uninvolvement itself, let it be absolute, so that it will be deliberate cut through from the states of mind, Dharma, body and mind, from all elements, which is total cutting, which is deliberate cut through, from the deliberate cut through itself. It can be deliberate cut through because it cut through itself deliberately, uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. The deliberate cut through happens because of it cut through and deliberate cut through itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself, cut through deliberately from the deliberate cut through itself. Disregard doesn't grasp itself. With this, it will purify that which is still drowned and sink within oneself. It will be all purified. The desire is still compromising a lot, still having significance and meanings a lot. The states of desire still being obsessed with giving significance and meanings and involvement, which is not deliberately cutting through. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, purify the internal and the external. If there is still the internal, then the external is still there. When there is the external, the mind is still there. The internal is still there, still not yet enabled to discard the mind. Disregard, even from the disregard itself continuously, then it will have nothing to do with the body and the mind in whatever ways again. Then automatically it will be brightening in all directions.
ไอ้แช่ๆซึมๆนี่ก็เตรียมตัวไปลง
All
ภู
the
มิต่ำได้เลย
drowning and maintaining prepare to be fated in the woeful realms.
มันยิ่งแอคทีฟหน่อยดิ
Go beyond being active, beyond awakening. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, is beyond awakening. This is the essence which is deliberate cut through within itself, cut through the cutting itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, it cuts through the cutting itself. It is the deliberate cut through that deliberately cutting through itself. Within itself is deliberate. There will not be any compromising with any state of mind or any state of Dharma attainment. No compromising. Otherwise, the state of mind will become somewhere to hold on to. It becomes realms of existence. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, deliberate cut through within itself. This is the cutting that cuts through itself. To be drowned and sink even a tiny bit is like ongoing creating of realm of existence. The essence of the enlightenment is given, so follow it. This is not about practicing, maintaining, or sinking. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, cut through the cutting itself. The essence of the enlightenment is given, just follow it. Cut through. This is not about following something. It is enlightened, cut through the knowing accordingly. Don't regret the looking and seeing. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, it will be beyond knowing and seeing. To maintain the observation, seeing and knowing, this is not cutting. Still clinging to the seer and the knower itself, there is no cutting in there. How can there be enlightenment? Still being deluded to knowing. There is no need to be concerned with being clear or not, knowing or not knowing. Don't pay attention to it, whether there is having the mind or not. Let's conclude the essence of the enlightenment continuously, cutting through the cutting itself. Don't go around. Don't compromise. Don't have any conditions or any ways or methods. Uninvolved even within the uninvolved itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Cut through the cutting itself. Don't compromise for samsara, being obsessed with ways and methods, on and on. Do you know what it is? That is the causes of suffering of samsara, still circling. It's still methods and ways. The emptiness is not the way. The enlightenment or nibbana is not the way. The ways is there because the samsara is there. No is not even no itself. Don't be obsessed with no, on and on, with something. No is not even the no itself. Don't be obsessed to know with something, on and on. This is not to be obsessed to know with something until there is the conflicts with that thing on and on, create conflicts and against everything. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. It doesn't grasp itself. That is the cutting that cuts through itself. This is not about being obsessed to cut something on and on until there is troubling in cutting. Cut through the cutting itself. Deliberate cut through within the deliberate cut through itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. There is no need to waste the time to disregard something on and on. With this, it will be direct with the essence of the enlightenment cut through the cutting itself. This is not to be obsessed to circle with attempting to cut something on and on until it becomes methods and ways and paths. Being obsessed to cut something, cut through the cutting itself. While being obsessed to disregard something, disregard even from the disregard itself. With this, it will give ending to everything with all that path of the noble ones or the worldlings. When awakening and the brightening will become in the way that is disregarding within itself. With this, it will be the power to penetrate through, to help samsara. This is not just about arousing samsara to be awakening. It will be purification in the way that is spontaneous. It will be the awakening and the brightening that is disregarding from itself. This is the power, the mighty force of the purification will be greatly in all directions. Let's conclude the essence that cut through itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. Don't be considerate with the senses and sense perceptions or the existence of the mind of looking, seeing and knowing. Don't be considerate with the senses and sense perceptions. Disregard even from the disregard itself has no clinging and lingering with anything. It cut through even the cut through itself. Well with it. Don't be obsessed to deludedly creating ways and methods on and on. The anicca and anatta is not classified as ways and methods. Ways and methods is the desire that is assumed up, having to do like this and like that. Being deluded to the form up, being deluded to the grab, to cling itself. The anicca and anatta is not fixated to itself as it is in its nature. There is no true fixation. There is just the stubborn persistence that happens occasionally. Therefore, deliberate cut through within the deliberate cut through itself. Disregard even from the disregard itself. The disregard is not about anything within itself. Once awakening and the brightening that is proceeding, it will be without limits all by itself. Help through the awakening, brightening, releasing and unwinding, purifying through the emptiness. All of these essential codes, if you are not clear, you are unable to bless beings, only just clashes with the beings. Blessing beings has to purify all at once through the emptiness. If not clear with the essence of the blessing to help cut through the deluded knowing, there is just clashing with the beings only. Being obsessed to use the mind, seeing and knowing, there is just clashes and clashes. It's impossible to bless beings. There is only just quarreling with the beings. To bless beings, it has to help ending for the beings. This is not just being friends or siblings, relatives with the beings. It is about helping ending for the beings for samsara. This is not to form up the body and mind to just be friends with samsara. What's that? If not being deliberate cut through well, how can there be ending to help? The disregarding still weakened, still not yet discarding itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, then it will be truly disregarding. There is no need to have any leftover of anything. Disregard, even from the disregard itself. Therefore, once awakening and the brightening that is proceeding, it is having great benefits. This is not awakening to enjoy the nature, the birds, the trees, the market, and oneself in the mirror. What's that? The awakening will be the purification of the extinction within itself. The brightening will be the purification of the extinction within itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, the form up of the awakening and the brightening will help samsara greatly. This is not just arousing all beings to awaken out, not only that. That is the awakening that happens automatically. They will follow the awakening already. But it's not only just that. Let's purify it instantly. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, it is instantaneous purification of the emptiness. Wherever crevices, mountains that there are, any forest, oceans, rivers, deep or shallow, no exception. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, well, there will be purification of the extinction in everywhere and everything, in the shallowness or deepness. This is not awakening in the way of sightseeing. Awakening that is drifting with just knowing and seeing. This is not cutting through the deluded knowing itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself. Uninvolved from the disregard itself. Disregard, even from the disregard itself, the disregard will have nothing to do with itself.
ไม่มันจะไม่ใช่อะไรในไม่เอง
Nothing is within the disregard
มี
itself.
เรื่องลอย
There is no driftness.
มันจะอยู่แค่ญาณทัศนะ
This is not
สัมผัส
just
รู้สัมผัส
stuck
เห็น
with
เรื่อง
just
ลอยอะไรอยู่
senses
ทัศน
and
จร
sense
เดี๋ยว
perceptions,
ก็เจอดี
sightseeing. You will
เจ
just
อไม่ดีเจอดี
confronting something, good or
เพราะ
bad.
ชอบมันจะเยอะ
There will be a lot of clashes.
ไม่มันก็ทั้งไม่เอง
Disregard,
จะ
even
ได้
from
รู้
the
ด้วยเห็น
disregard
อย่าเกรง
itself,
ใจ
don't be considerate and regret the existence of the mind and the heart.
ไม่ต้องเกรงใจใจ
There is no
มัน
need
เอง
to
เล
be
ยไม่ต้องเกรง
considerate
ใจใจเอง
within the
เลย
mind itself or the heart itself.
ไม่เกี่ยวแม้กระทั่งไม่เกี่ยว
Uninvolved
เอง
even within
โล
the
ก
unvolved itself.
ไม่เกี่ยวที่ไม่ใช่อะไรนี่ไม่
The
เกี่ยว
uninvolved
เอ
that is
ง
not about anything within itself.
อย่าเกรงใจใจเอง
Don't be considerate to the mind itself.
ส่วนรวมของมโนกรรมมโนเว
It's
ร
the
ส่วนรวมของ
center
มโน
of
วิบาก
mental karma and mental karmic difficulties.
มันจะได้ยิ่งกว่าไอ้เป็น
So that it will be beyond being a person, a human.
อย่ามัวจะเป็นอะไร
Don't be obsessed to be something on and on.
ทางโลกทางธรรมถ้ามันไม่มัวแต่หลงปฏิบัติมันก็ไม่เป็นสังสวัฏภูมิหรอก
If there is no delusion in practices, whether it's worldly or Dharma, it will not become realm of existence within the 31, 32 realms. Because it creates realms of existence through the deluded practicing.
มัวแต่เจริญธาตุ
Being
มัวแต่
obsessed
เจริญ
with
ขันธ์
practicing the body and the
มัว
mind,
แต่ปฏิบัติ
senses and sense
กาย
perceptions,
ปฏิบัติจิตป
being
ฏิบัติธรรม
obsessed to deludedly practicing body, mind and Dharma on and
โม
on.
กโลปฏิบัติ
Being deluded to form up the
ปฏิบัติ
practicing.
ปฏิบัติเอง
Being obsessed to
ตัด
form
ไม่
up
ตัด
the
เองเลยโลก
practicing
ไม่
itself.
ไม่เอง
So let's cut through the cutting itself, disregard even from the disregard
ตัด
itself.
ตัวตัดเองเลย
Cut through the
มัวแต่ไป
cutting
ตัดอะไรมัน
itself.
เมื่อย
Don't be obsessed to cut something to create exhaustion in it.
วิถีอริยมรรคทั้งหลายก็ไม่ได้ส่งเสริม
All the
นี่
path of the noble ones
หรือ
is
แม้
not
แต่ชน
encouraged,
มรรคแม้แต่มรรคอริยะก็ไม่
not
ได้ส่ง
even the
เสริม
path of the worldlings. All the passing on that is
ทำให้เขาต้องหลง
distorted,
ต้องตั้งมุ่งหวัง
creating
ตั้งเอา
determination
การเอา
and aim towards that which is not about grasping, whether it is considered as the formed up or the path to the enlightenment or the liberation, whether it's worldly or Dharma, the delusion to pass on for all the aims and projection is just like being deluded to the anicca and anatta. All the words that are the samutai, the teachings that are samutai, may it be forgiven. Ahosi, ahosi, ahosi.
ใครก็ชอบตามๆกันมาไม่รู้ว่าตาม
This
อะไร
is troubling when
มีแต่ตัวคอยตาม
there
ตา
are
ม
just
อะไร
following. There is just the
เอา
followers
ตามๆกันดิ
being
ยึด
deluded to
ตามๆกัน
follow all the same,
เอาตามๆกัน
grasping all the same.
ก็เลยเป็นสังสารวัฏ
Therefore, it becomes samsara.